may know. So I'll just introduce myself really quickly. My name is Amy Jansen. I'm the business research librarian on campus. I've been an academic librarian for like 20 years, but I have been a business librarian for about 10 years. So, but as most of the librarians in our at Southern, we have to kind of field everything. So I'm used to and accustomed to fielding lots of different types of research questions from across disciplines. So it's not only business that I work with. I'm a generalist as well. So I'll just move on to the session roadmap. So just to outline what I'm going to talk about, and I sometimes tend to go fast. So if you want to raise your hand, and if for some reason I don't see your hand, go ahead and yell out at me. I won't be offended. To slow down or to repeat something, please let me know. So I first want to talk about specialized databases. I then want to kind of just introduce you to just advanced searching techniques, what might help make your searches more efficient. And then I want to talk a little bit about gray literature, what it is, how to find it, if it might be useful for you, especially some of you, who might be needing to look at government information, policies, briefs, reports, that type of stuff that isn't necessarily going to be found in one of our academic kind of peer review databases. I also want to talk a little bit about where you can find primary sources, data, preprints. Briefly, I'll mention AI research tools, some to try and when to proceed with caution, and then I'll just kind of re-emphasize that talking to a librarian, actually sitting down with one of the librarians. There's a librarian in Bewley Library that specializes in every subject area, every department and major, and as well as graduate program that's offered at Southern. So we are here for you. If you want to come in, meet with us, we meet with people in person, on Zoom, on the phone. We've done it all at this point. So we kind of try to meet you where you are. We're happy to kind of dig deeper into your specific research area and really help you with a more customized kind of consultation. So let me move forward. So exploring specialized databases. So I talk to so many students, and I have to confess, I talk to quite a few faculty as well, who really most often just focus on Google Scholar. They really rarely look elsewhere. And it is true that I talk to a lot of business faculty, more so than I do in other areas, but I talk to faculty across the board. And that sometimes, I think, filters down to students who also tend to sometimes come to me and say, well, I looked in SouthernSearch, I looked in Google Scholar, where there's a lot of stuff that isn't in those two places that you might be missing. So, and that's especially true at the graduate level. So at the level of research that all of you are at, you really need to be going beyond just SouthernSearch, the library's catalog, and beyond what you might find with a quick natural language search in Google Scholar. So it's about precision. So finding better quality content. It's about depth. So there are formats that might be missed by a general search. There's some content that's not indexed in SouthernSearch or in Google Scholar that's in some of our databases. You can use controlled vocabularies, which allows you to kind of really fine-tune your search, concept-based searching, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then the functionality, just lots of advanced options for searching beyond just stringing together a few keywords. I'll get to the next page because this really shows the kind of wide array of databases that are available. So at the top, we have our library catalog. So that has books, it has ebooks, it has journal articles. It has a lot of what our databases index, but it does not have everything. So I know specifically in business, and I don't know if you're in business, but there is so much stuff that SouthernSearch never even touches, never sees. So you're never going to find it with a SouthernSearch search. And that is actually true across disciplines as well. There are other subject areas where a SouthernSearch search will not find you anything. When you're talking about certain types of publications. So Subject-specific databases are better for those types of deeper dive types of searching. So that's where you can start to use a controlled vocabulary, specialized indexes, doing advanced search, using lots of techniques that really make your search more effective, and where you're not looking at 100,000 articles that about 99% of which really aren't hitting the mark. So I'm just giving examples here like PsycInfo, that's a psychology database, ERIC, an education database, Medline, CINAHL. So those would be for nursing or biology. And those can be found on our library's A through Z database list, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And then we have abstract and citation databases. So those have very broad and multidisciplinary coverage. So some of you might have worked with Scopus. Is that anything? Has anyone worked with Scopus? That's a very what we would call an abstract citation database. Scopus doesn't have full text articles, but it really indexes a huge number of high quality peer reviewed abstracts from articles. So that, and something that like Scopus or Web of Science might have more information on the impact of the journal. Is it a reputable journal in its field? Do people cite it often? If they cite it often, how often? So that has complex maps of how all those metrics in Scopus, a database like Scopus. So that's another type. Systematic reviews or evidence-based practice types of searching, that would also be something you could do in Scopus. That could be something you could do in Medline or CINAHL or Cochrane Library. We won't go too far deeply into that, but those are going to focus on methodologically rigorous studies. So that would be also, some of those are available on our A through Z list and on our subject guides. So that's just a kind of broad categorization of different types of databases that are available. Oops. So what's really important is finding the right databases to check. And when I say databases, I mean, I tell this to undergraduates, but it's especially true at the graduate level. They're really, at this point, you shouldn't be just looking in one place, a Google Scholar search. You should be doing a Google Scholar search, do a SouthernSearch, check database A, B, C, D, E, F, G, check 10 databases. You should have kind of, your search should be sort of multi-pronged and exhaustive at this point, and try to be as comprehensive as you can. So these are just some places where you can go for that. So the library's website, our A through Z database list and subject guides, which I'll show you in a few minutes as well, and consulting with your librarian who can go much deeper into each specific area. So as just examples of different databases that might be useful in different disciplines. Sociology, I'm going to show an example in Sociindex in just a minute. In education, we have ERIC, psychology, PsycInfo, business, ABI Informed Complete, biology, biological sciences collection is an example. These are all databases that are we have library subscriptions to, university subscriptions to. So I wouldn't put anything here that you can't access. Marriage and family therapy, family studies abstracts, that's another database. And there's many, many more. Those are just a few examples. So I'll just click here on specialized databases to show you. On Bewley Library's website, I went through the direct link from the slide, but on the homepage, you can either find a database here, and hopefully you can all see where when I'm searching, it's still showing that I'm sharing. But you can also drill down a little bit better by subject if you go through our all database list. So that all database list is going to have databases categorized by subject area. So if you're in education, that might be, there are some best bets that are pulled out and put at the top. And for those of you who don't know, who are in education, Carla Jones would be your librarian that you would want to meet with to really do a special kind of customized consultation with her on your research. So ERIC would be an example of that database. Lots and lots of other databases here. So just be aware that these exist. You know, part of this workshop really presentation is just so that you know this exists. Even if you remember nothing else, you remember that we have hundreds of databases at your disposal for your research. So moving down to mastering it, make sure I didn't, yeah. So mastering advanced searching. So I just wanted to kind of touch on this too. So when we're talking about advanced searching, our goal is really moving beyond simple keyword types of searching. So unfortunately, at this level, the natural language searches where we just, what we're all used to doing in Google. We might need to really be a little bit more precise and careful about how we search with keywords. Because it's going to be more effective and it's going to find you stuff that you need easier, more quickly, and just make your search much more effective and targeted. And the benefits would be fewer irrelevant results. So you don't have to wade through 100,000 pages of articles that really aren't quite what you need. So less missed information. And a lot of this applies across different databases and across platforms, what I'm going to talk about. There might be very slight variations, but most of these techniques that I'm going to talk about do carry from one database to the next. So specific techniques, I'm just listing some of them here. And this might be specifically interesting to our student who's in the LIS program. Phrase searching, truncation, wildcards, Boolean operators, probably many of you have heard of those, proximity operators, and field searching. So I'm just going to do I put here a sample search that's actually the next slide. I'm sorry. I want to give some examples first of the different types of techniques I just mentioned. I'm tripping over myself, trying to go too fast. So phrase searching might be where you're looking for two words that you want to be found together in close proximity to each other in your results. So you can look for climate change, but if you don't put it in quotes, then it's not going to find climate and change close to each other in the text of either the abstracts or the keywords for your articles. Truncation would be that asterisk, and that would be able to find that root word. So that if I put that after educate, removing the E, that would find educate, education, educational. So that would be one way to kind of refine your search as well. Wildcards, I use this one less often, but this is also useful where you just replace one of the letters with a question mark is usually what the wildcard is. And then Boolean operators. Now, I know it says uppercase here, but I really kind of scoured most databases, and a lot of them are accepting lowercase Boolean operators. So that might have been true a few years ago that you had to put your Boolean operators in uppercase, but now it's not as important. So you know what those are. Proximity operators would be that N. So if you want to find terms that are near each other, so tax and 5 reform. So tax is within 5 words of reform in your search. Field searching would be searching fields. So like in EBSCO databases, especially, we're going to look at Sociindex in a minute. Different subject areas, different fields have different codes like TI, AU for author, SU for subject, AB for abstract, and it's a little different, and you'll see in the database. Oopsie, you'll see what it is when you look in the database, and I'll show you that in just a second. So most databases have some kind of, if you get lost with this, most have some kind of search help feature like JSTORs, which outlines the specific syntax that's used in that database. So my example here, I'm going to go to Sociindex. And if you don't have to, I'm going to go over to a search, but if you have the slide and you have another monitor or want to open it on the screen, you can leave this one open. I'll flip back to it in a minute. So I'm just going to look at a sample search, let's say, the impact of social media and its use on mental health of adolescents in Western societies. So, and you want studies from just the last 5 years. Now, a lot of students that I talked to would just go to the database and put in social media, mental health, adolescents, and hope that they could find everything they need. And you might find some stuff that way. It doesn't mean you won't. But you might find a lot of stuff that's just not terribly relevant. So it's important to refine your search. And I highlighted social media, mental health, and young adult because in Sociindex, those are the actual official subject index terms. So looking for adolescents would be pretty ineffective. They use the term young adult. They do use the term mental health, and they do use well-being, and they do use social media. So those are all good. Those are hits. But it is important to really know this when you're doing your searching. And you would know that by searching. So let me push on to, I'm going to find Sociindex. Let's go down to sociology. And and Lisa Beer, by the way, is our sociology librarian. She does a lot of the social sciences. So Sociindex is on the platform that is called EBSCO. Probably many of you are familiar-ish with EBSCO at this point. EBSCO is our platform for many, many, many databases. So you can see all of the databases that are indexed or that are hosted on the EBSCO platform by clicking that Sociindex, the database. Right now, I only have that highlighted, but you can see here how there are dozens of EBSCO databases. So you could feasibly pick multiple databases to search at the same time. Did somebody ask a question? Did I miss
Can
it?
you hear me? It's Mallory again.
Okay, yes, and I'm sorry if your hand was up. I have
No,
some.
I'm having trouble finding the raise hand feature on this platform today. But
Okay,
I do have a question. Um, you said young adult is a good term, but not adolescent in this case. But I didn't catch why. Can you clarify that, please? How you know what term is going to get you stuff?
right. So the way you know is by starting your searching. That's why a search like this. So I'm having trouble. I'm gonna lift social media and mental health or well-being in it. So if I would copy and paste, if I would put in this search string, and then I would start to look at the subject headings. So let me go ahead and put in, just a moment. I'm just going to lift this search string and I'm going to flip back over to Sociindex. So I'm going to put social media in quotes, mental health or well-being, and adolescent or teen or young adult. So this is before I know what the actual subject index terms are. I'm going to search. And then I'm going to take a look at one of my hits. When I say that there are certain subject terms that are used by certain databases, I mean these right here. And this is different database to database. That's why it's good to be very versatile and flexible and really repeat your searches and to have a search string that kind of builds itself like the one I have above. So I've put social media in quotes, I've put mental health or well-being in quotes, and I've added adolescent or teen or young adult. So by doing that, you would make sure that you catch everything. If you're not sure of the subject terms used by that database, you know that you're probably going to get a hit with some of these. And then once you find some results, you open one of the records, scroll down, and you're able to see the subject terms that are used by that specific database. So these are the official subject terms used by Sociindex. And again, if you combine this with multiple databases, that might not, the results might vary because every database is different. I don't know if that answered your question, Mallory.
Yes, I think it did. Thank you.
So yeah, and I was kind of skipping forward a little bit. So my first attempt was that first search, social media and mental health in adolescence. And I wasn't finding a lot. So we started, I'm really having a problem with going back. Sorry about that. So my first try with keywords was social media, mental health, adolescence. My next try was social media and mental health in quotes and adolescence. But then I decided to build a more complex search string and add those in parentheses and add some different possible variations of the term. So if I'm not getting much with adolescents, I'm going to add teen or young adult or something similar in order to kind of cast the net wide to see what this database has. So you could also add, but it won't change the search much, a proximity operator. So you could add in quotes, or in parentheses at the end, negative impact. You can add controlled vocabulary that allows for field searching. So using A, B, S, U, and let me show you what that looks like. So if we would do an advanced search, I'm going to go back to my result page. The different field codes are here. So, and this again will vary from database to database. So if you're in SociIndex, subject term is SU, author AU. This will likely be similar in most EBSCO databases, but there could be some that are here that are not in other databases. So this is another thing you could use to do a little bit more targeted searching by only searching one specific field, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to repeat that search. So I'm finding a few things here with my very long, kind of more complex search string. But I'm seeing that my access options aren't necessarily showing. Yes, this one actually is showing PDF. Okay, that's good. I was a little bit concerned because it didn't say PDF. I just wanted to point out this new feature in a lot of EBSCO databases is there is a little tool called Generate AI Insights. This is in beta testing. So what you'll get to see here is it will read, it doesn't do it for every article. It usually does it for all full text articles. So there must be something that was unreadable about this first one. But what it will do is it's going to read, kind of do a quick scan of the article and give you a few insights. Now, again, take it or leave it. This is in beta testing. It's interesting to just see, to read it, to compare it to the abstract. You should really rely on the abstract for a more official and kind of author created account of the article, but these insights are kind of interesting to kind of compare and contrast with the abstracts, and undergraduate students definitely like it. So that you're going to see that on a lot of articles now. This is again in beta testing. The other thing I wanted to point out, especially after Rebecca's session yesterday, I'm not sure if anyone was able to see that, but she talked about Zotero and using citation management. So I want to point something out that you can do here at this point, this little cite tool up here. If you are using Zotero and say this article is just like really hitting the spot, this is what you wanted, you would be able to import that, export it from here. Let me get this out of the way. Go to export citation. Of course, you can copy it if that's all you want to do. Here you can cut and paste it and put it in your reference list. But probably at the graduate level, you might want to start managing your citations and using something to manage them. And if you were in Rebecca's session, she was talking about Zotero. And in that respect, you would be able to export this to Zotero using this export in RIS format here. BibTeX is another one that allows you to export, but for right now, I'll just point that one out. Some databases only have BibTeX, but this one has a RIS format. So that would, if you had Zotero instance open on your desktop, which I do right now, I'm afraid if I stop sharing and flip over to my Zotero, it will kind of take me 5 minutes to get it back. But you would be able to automatically export this and it would pop up in your library in Zotero. So that's a quick look at a sample search in SourceIndex. Again, this is very complicated when you start getting into what search terms to use, what keywords to use, whether you need something, if you're looking at certain types of studies, time, that's easy to account for. But this is something where if you wanted to talk to a librarian, we're happy to sit down with you and go over your particular research questions and really kind of drill down and see what we can do. That was just kind of an example. Another thing I want to talk about is, and we can come back to anything. I want to leave time at the end for questions, and we can revisit someone's research question, or if you had some more specific questions about advanced searching. But I wanted to mention gray literature because this might be something that you need to use in, and you're probably going to stumble across in your research. So it would be information that's produced beyond those commercial publishing channels. So it does matter because they're more timely. So the publishing process in gray literature is much shorter. So I know specifically in economics, time is of the essence in a lot of those economics publications. So waiting for a peer-reviewed article to get peer reviewed, to go through the process and to be published is sometimes not well regarded. And so there is a kind of emphasis placed on gray literature, and it has a quite high level of importance in the field. It can have unique content too that you can't find in peer-reviewed sources. And it has a kind of a much broader array of perspectives also. And its relevance. So it has a lot of relevance for policy, and a lot of what some of you are working on are really kind of practitioner oriented graduate work. So it might have insights that are important for that. It also offers you a very diverse and global perspective and avoids that publication bias. And we all know that, the stuff that gets published is the stuff, it falls within a certain kind of range of acceptable types of research. And there are things that don't get published that are worthy of being reviewed and used in research. So identifying key types and finding gray lit. So government reports, NGO reports, policy briefs, white papers, conference proceedings. You've probably all stumbled across these before: theses, dissertations, working papers. So some specialized databases, like the ones we were just talking about, those do have gray lit. A lot of business databases have it. So, if you're looking at market research, or if you're looking at industry reports, that's all gray literature. That's going to be in a database. It's not going to be findable anywhere else, like in SouthernSearch or in Google Scholar. Those are industry reports that are only going to be available in proprietary databases. Google Scholar does have gray literature. ERIC does, ProQuest dissertations and theses, obviously. I just want to point to, here's one more example. Economics literature, REPEC, is an open economics repository of literature. And you could say that it has a lot of gray literature. It has working papers, it has articles, it has books, book chapters. Same situation here. If I did some searching, and I mention economics because it really has an impact on lots of different fields, unlike some other areas. And so some of you might actually, let's look up, oops, I'm not in ideas yet. Let me get, okay. So I'm just doing a quick search in REPAC, which is an economics kind of open database of lots of different publications. So if I open this article, I just want to point out that it also has the option to export the reference. So a lot of these open kind of sources for gray literature and different publications that are outside of the peer-reviewed kind of realm also allow you to export your references. And this would be something you could also import into Zotero as well. And I'm going to show you another one in just a moment in a different preprint server. So just flipping back, government agencies, organization websites, think tanks, and research groups. So you might have like the UN, or you might have Federal Reserve, or you might have Pew Research. Those would all be in this realm of gray literature. The other thing that would fall into gray literature would be our authors database at Southern. So just a quick look over here. I'm not sure if everybody is aware of the, let's see how were they putting it? Oops, I'm gonna go to all. So SCSU authors, these are publications that have been submitted by all of our faculty not all, but by faculty at Southern, as well as staff. So hopefully it will pop up. Currently, we have 6,420 entries. This consists of journal articles, books, conference papers, book sections. So this is something that you might want to check, because if you find some research that kind of overlaps with your own research, that's actually someone you want to reach out to as well for collaboration, for insights. So this is a really good resource until we have some kind of digital repository, which we hope is on the horizon in the next few years. This is kind of our solution to that, and that's on the library's A through Z list. So evaluating gray literature is important, and this checklist is really kind of the going standard for how to evaluate it. So before you use gray literature, just be careful that you're looking at who's responsible for it and are they credible. And this might take a little bit of checking. So you might have to do some investigative work when you find gray literature to figure out if something is acceptable. And there's going to be some things that something that was published by the Census Bureau is not going to require the same amount of digging than if you find some oddly named think tank that published a report. So that would require a little bit more digging. Accuracy, coverage, objectivity, that's a big one. There are some think tanks and research groups out there that actually have a very clear agenda, and you can find it if you dig and look at their website, their mission. Also, look for news about it. Look for how it's regarded. You can usually do kind of an external search and check how that particular research group or think tank has if it's been in the news. The date, the significance, those are all other factors. Other resources I wanted to mention, there are primary source digital archives, there lots of them, more now than ever. So the Library of Congress has digital collections. There are research data repositories at your disposal. So ICPSR, we have Harvard's Dataverse, IPUMS. These are all open repositories. So ICPSR is associated with the University of Michigan. It's an international consortium, and it has so much data. IPUMS has a lot of census data that they've been kind of collating and interpreting, and they're affiliated with the University of Minnesota. There are tools like r3data.org or OpenDOAR, which can help you locate a repository for the kind of data you need. The other thing I want to mention are preprint servers, and these are also linked on our library website. So we have ARXIV, SOCH ARXIV, Sci ARXIV, obviously. And there are pros and cons. They have the same pros and cons that gray literature does. So I'm going to just flip to a quick look at one of these preprint servers. Has anyone used these before or have any experience with the preprint server? And if someone, I'm seeing that, I don't know if I can see a hand. I think I see a hand. Okay. So the links can be found on our library's A through Z database list. I'm going to do a quick search. I just have a direct link to my search here in the ARXIV, which is a physics, math, computer science, and I believe they have a couple other sciences are indexed or contained here. So if I did a quick search for, say, this is computer science, so I'm going to put in network security and intrusion detection. We're going to find lots of results here with that very broad search, but I just want to kind of show you what these servers look like. So I'm going to click on the hyperlinked title here and take a close look at who submitted this and who they're affiliated with. You can usually do a separate Google search, checking for the authors. Um, the other thing to point out I wanted to mention is that you can export this BibTeX citation. So this is something else you can import into export and then import into Zotero. And you can also find out if, is there a reference in Google Scholar? So let's link over here. And this is something we can find here as well. So this is an example of one of those preprint servers, and there's a few of them out there. This isn't the only one. But they get a lot of their information from Semantic Scholar, or is also found here, which is another thing I'm going to mention under when I talk about AI tools in just a second. So using AI research tools. This is something I could talk about for a long time. I won't, because but I do feel like I would be doing you a disservice not mentioning it. I do have a library guide that's focused just on AI tools and research, and you're welcome to kind of root around in there, see what you can find. But I pulled out some things that I think you might find useful. There's a few things that you might want to play around with. Oh, I spelled Semantic Scholar wrong. I'm usually such a spelling stickler. I'm sorry about that. That's devastating for me. Um, Elicit, Research Rabbit, those are really good for research. So those are, I think, tools that are not going to get you into trouble, that are actually accessing scholarly publications. And Research Rabbit is really more of a literature mapping tool than it is a AI tool. For help with summarizing, I've had one faculty member who told me she loves Scholarly. Some others I've heard Chat PDF are really good. Um, and then writing and proofreading help, there's Grammarly, Trinka. Just be careful, super careful with chatbots like ChatGPT or Gemini. I do know that some of the others that I've mentioned here have data privacy policies and they're clear about them. But ChatGPT and Gemini are kind of, what you put in there, what you upload there, you don't know it's going to be used in their training database. It's not private anymore. So be really careful uploading large amounts of your information, data, your writing into those chatbots because you don't know. And some of these other tools, though, are much better in terms of their data privacy policies. So the concerns about using AI tools, there are a lot of them. So we have the privacy, we have the security issue, we have academic integrity and plagiarism, and this is going to become a bigger problem with each passing year. We have now the majority of undergraduates and as well as a slightly lower number of graduate students who are using AI regularly for their writing, according to some articles I was just reading and studies that were just done. So we have a huge problem and we have to figure out how to use it right, how to use it well and how to cite it. But there are other issues. We have bias of fairness. There's transparency, explainability. There is the omnipresent over-reliance and de-skilling. So we have, students who are coming up working on degrees, working on master's degrees and PhDs and doctoral level degrees who just aren't cultivating that practice of reading, analyzing, synthesizing, writing. It's something else is doing it for them. So it's a big problem. We have accuracy and misinformation. ChatGPT and Gemini are notorious for making up sources. So never use them, never ask them to suggest peer-reviewed or academic sources because they will literally make stuff up that you can use go to Semantic Scholar or to Elicit for that types of like what publications have been written on social media use and adolescence and negative impact. Those would be better tools for that. And then ethical use and responsibility is like omnipresent problem too. So the other thing I want to mention, and then I wanted to leave more time for questions, but is that we are here for you. So sometimes we are too passively here for you. I feel like we should be reaching out more, getting out more, and talking to you, and really finding out what students need help with, because graduate students in particular are super busy. So we know that, and we want to meet you on your terms. So whatever way you want to meet with us, whatever way you want to talk to us, however we can be useful and helpful to you, you can schedule a one-on-one research session. You can look at the many subject guides we have. I'll just kind of pull those up, just like I had the AI guide. We have subject guides in many areas. So in particular, let's say chemistry. We have chemistry guides. Diana Hellier is actually our STEM librarian, so she would be able to sit down with you if you had questions about that. We have mine are all under the business one, but I'm going to show you Carla's again, has many guides here, educational policy, educational leadership that she spent, I know, a lot of time really working on and making up to date and useful for students. So I could go on with that, but I do want to get to your questions. So I'm going to stop sharing and see what questions you all might have. Is there anything you want me to talk about in more detail, or anything that wasn't clear?
How can you get the Zatora app? Sorry, or the Zatora
Mhm.
manager?
So Zotero is a downloadable. There is a web version. I'm going to put the link in. There's a web version, but the downloadable one for your desktop is a lot better. At least it's a lot. I found it a little more versatile. It has more features, whereas the one on the web is a little bit more limited. So I would suggest, if you have, your own laptop that you work on, to download it. It kind of can run in the background. It really doesn't cause problems, doesn't take a whole lot of space, or I would highly recommend that. Hopefully that link came through.
It said thank you.
Any other questions? Did everyone see the slide link or see the file? Let me know if you missed it.
I think I missed it. I didn't see the slide file though.
Oh, okay. Let me post the link, but I'll also post the file. Let me post the file first. So I put it into a Google Doc because I work with undergraduate students a lot, and they really don't like PowerPoint files. They want everything like a link for everything. So that's kind of when I started getting in the habit of uploading my slides. Yep, Marianne.
I'm just not familiar with the term preprint. Like, I don't even know what that means.
So preprint would be something that's before publication. So it might be a paper that someone is working on, a paper that's been submitted for publication but hasn't been accepted yet. It might be a paper that has been submitted and was a revise and reject
Got it.
and submit.
It's
So
on its journey.
yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. but they can be quite useful in a lot of fields because where timeliness is of the essence, because sometimes that process takes years. And so some scholars make their preprints available, or they want to get it out there. Would anyone be interested? Do you think that another session, something like this would be? I'm sorry, the car outside. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a revving engine. I'm in my office in Southern, but would that be of interest to folks? Would you be another session, something like this, where we look at your own topics more deeply, or
That would be helpful.
any of the areas that I focused on? Okay.
I would find that very helpful as well.
Okay, I know I threw a lot at you today, so if you have, after you've time to process, if you have any questions, I'm gonna,
Yeah, because sometimes it's just easier to like practice while watching. Like, so you actually doing the scale because then you're gonna go back to your computer and look at it like, oh, where do I go? Like,
yeah. So I'm putting my email. Yes, definitely. I'm also available for one-on-one meetings, absolutely. And I put my email in there. Well, I don't want to keep you if you're ready to go. You've listened to me talk long enough. Please be in touch if I can help any further, and good luck with your research. And yes, thanks. Have a lovely evening yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.